So again, we're going to dive right into this. We've got an incredible interview today with Neal Harmon, the CEO of Angel Studios, and Tim Ballard, who The Sound of Freedom is about. And this interview goes into the history of The Sound of Freedom, why it took so long to come out, because it's been made for almost 5 years, and then how we ended up connecting and the miraculous path that we ended up on. It's just incredible to watch Angel's story over the last 10 years and how things have built upon each other to allow us to release this film in such a massive way, and with your support, get it out to the world. And it's also incredible and miraculous to watch Tim Ballard's story and his team and Eduardo and what they did, and Alejandro Monteverde and their journey to meeting to where we could have this collision course and get this film out to you. So without further ado, I would love to roll this incredible interview between Tim Ballard and the CEO of Angel Studios, Neal Harmon.
We are so pleased today to have a special guest here at Angel Studios headquarters. We all know we're launching this huge film on July 4th that's so important. It's on the edge of your seat thriller. It's a true story. And today, Tim Ballard has joined us at Angel Studios to talk about the making of this film. We've been friends for a long time. Welcome to Angel Studios, Tim.
Thanks, Neal. Great to be here.
Thanks for coming. So, to get started, I'd love to just hear from your perspective. I've heard from Eduardo Verastegui's, his perspective on how this all began. I'd love to hear this from your perspective. How did this film come about?
So really, I guess the film came about when the content for the film, meaning the true content that was the basis, happened. And that was in October of 2014 when a crazy investigation, this thriller that I actually lived in real life, ended, or a big part of it ended on this island with the rescue of 54 children. And it was one of the largest rescue operations recorded, and it made the news and all over, like in the U.S. It was an operation that happened in Colombia. And Eduardo Verastegui, somehow, someone sent him a link to it, and he saw this story. Well, his production company was working on a script for a human trafficking thriller, but it was completely fiction. And so they thought, well, what if it was based on a true story? Could this be it? And then at that point, he reached out to me and invited me and my wife to go see the film they had just finished called Little Boy. What he didn't realize is months before that, we had been hit up by, I think, 3 or 4 different Hollywood studios. Mm-hmm. They had seen the same news piece and thought this could be a movie perhaps. And I remember I turned it over to my wife. I said, you get veto power. I don't even want to discuss it. I don't trust Hollywood.
My wife has spent time with your wife, and now I understand why you did that.
Yeah, because this is like a make or break thing, and Hollywood's a strange place. It's a place where, frankly, I think I'm in business largely because of the content that comes out of Hollywood and creates sex addictions and weird, that's where the demand comes from. So,
and Catherine's very special.
She's very in tune. And I remember walking off the lot of one of the largest Hollywood studios.
Yep.
And we're walking off, and I'm kind of mesmerized, like, oh my gosh, I know that show. You see all the big, the big studios, and she's like, nope, we're not doing it. I'm like, really? Like, look at this. This is cool. Like, I'm kind of a little wowed by the
I've been there too. I know I've been on the Sony lot and some of the other lots. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So anyway, so months later, we get this call from Eduardo. And he invites us to watch the film. We watch the film, and Catherine's just crying, and she does not cry easily in movies. She's just such a beautiful film. And she said, I don't know why they invited us, but if it's the same question that the other guys had, like they should do this. That night we went to dinner. Eduardo said Alejandro was there as well, the director, and they said we want our next project to be this. So let's get going. And I said, you're pre-approved. Congratulations.
You already got the Catherine stamp of approval.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So when Tricia watched Little Boy, she was deeply moved too. So that's a great story. So you guys got the chance to see Eduardo and Alejandro's work and just felt like this was right.
Something very special about it, and you sense the same, you feel the same in Sound of Freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I actually remember just in passing that you had a very specific request for Alejandro about the film. Does that ring a bell for you?
There was two. I'll just tell you the first one we can talk about later.
Okay.
I said, whatever you do, you cannot create any content that would do anything to turn on a pedophile. In other words, don't depict any.
Right.
One. Two, Jim Caviezel has to play me. And I didn't even know Jim at all. And he was kind of taken aback because he's like, well, we were kind of, because at the end of the film, you remember, they do this kind of cool transition into real footage.
Yes.
Which is a really cool part of the movie because you kind of wake back up and realize, oh my gosh, this really was real.
Well, I was at a screening in Santa Monica, and the people, a family arrived late. They had planned to walk in and leave quickly. So they missed the opening slate that said, based on a true story. They got to and then they stayed through the whole film, and they got to the very end, and it switched to your face, and they said it was like a ton of bricks hit them that this was a true story. So.
And then they follow up with some of the scenes that you remember from the movie, but it's the action, because we were filming it for evidentiary purposes.
Right.
So it's really cool, and that's why they didn't like Jim, because they said, look, Jim's tall, dark, and handsome. You're short, ugly, and squatty. And, we got to get someone that looks like, so the transition isn't awkward. I said, look, I don't care. I don't really care. Hollywood, you guys have the skills to fix that. I said, this movie, the story is too sacred, and I don't trust Hollywood. But I know one thing about Jim Caviezel. One, he's a great actor. My favorite movie of all time was The Count of Monte Cristo, right? Yeah. And I know he loves Jesus. And that is important to me.
Yeah.
That's important to me. Someone who loves the Lord, I can at least trust that. And they said, all right. They called him, I think 4 days later, he committed. And he read the script, and he just told me later, he was just in tears. He had adopted 3 children already from China.
Yeah.
And he had pulled them out of trafficking situations.
He told me that this is his best work aside from The Passion of the Christ.
He has said that, and that is a big deal because he's been in some amazing movies.
Yes, he has. Yes.
Just amazing films.
Yeah, and he is a very, very gifted actor. So don't turn on a pedophile and Jim Caviezel. Yeah. And Alejandro was willing to play ball.
He played ball on both of those requests.
Good. Well, it's just, I feel like Alejandro said to me that it was so important to him to make a film that was beautiful, like visually, because the topic's so hard, and truly the team achieved that with this film. Why, from your perspective? I know you're not actually. The film is Eduardo and Alejandro, and then you licensed the rights to your story to them, and then they made the film. But you trusted that they would do a good job. But you were more involved in the distribution decision than typically it happens.
Yes.
And why Angel Studios? Tell me about that.
It was so interesting because I recognize spiritual warfare. Okay, this is a real thing. I recognize it from the work I do. So I didn't expect it to be any different with a major motion picture about the work. Yeah. And sure enough, my gosh, I don't know if you even know this story, but I only went to the set twice. But during the filming of the movie, there was 2 pivotal scenes that I just felt like I needed to be there to make sure they didn't mess up. Okay, but the very first day of filming, I think like $5 million disappeared. Like the funders said, no, we're out, and they were going to start production the next day. And the production company said, you give us the money, or we're going to move on to another project. So I'm sitting there with Jim Caviezel in Bogota, Colombia, and he's saying, I don't know if cameras aren't going to turn on tomorrow. Oh, you got to be kidding me. So Eduardo, act of faith, like you wouldn't believe, because Eduardo, he only has $1 million secured at this point. The other ones who were going to wire the money said we can't right now, maybe later. So if he commits that money, the production begins. But if he can't raise the rest, then
he's stuck without a movie and short $1 million.
And a lawsuit when the guy finds out.
Yeah.
You committed that without the rest.
Yes.
And he told me he just prayed and said Leap of faith. Just like the whole script is about leaps of faith. He's like, this is mine. And he did it. And by the time they were ready for the next payment, the windfall came in and it was done. So that's where you saw it already happening. Then Fox had it. Then Disney had it. Then several people had the rights to it. And every time it happened, these names, big as they are, whatever, I felt zero. I just felt nothing. I felt like, I hope it doesn't come out under them. It was a weird thing. I just didn't feel right. And then, I remember the life rights were kind of about to close down in a few months, and I was just like, I don't know what's gonna happen. It's been, at that point, it's been two and a half years or something since it's been done.
I know. This movie sat for so long.
2.5 years since it was done. Yeah. And I got this invitation to go to the set of The Chosen, which is the only TV show my family watches, right? And at the Goshen set. So we went down there. I found out later who invited us.
For a new audience to Sound of Freedom, The Chosen is an Angel Studios original. It's a TV series about the life of Christ.
Like you guys don't know that, okay?
Well, no. The Sound of Freedom is bringing in about
really?
2/3 new.
Oh my
audience.
gosh, I didn't know that. Then watch The Chosen. It's the only TV show we watch. So I get down there. I don't know who invited us. We're on the set, and as it turns out, the group was going to. Everybody on the set was had given hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever to the production. Yeah. And we had. I think Catherine said we had given $250 a month or something. I'm like, okay, that's not why I'm here. Clearly, I didn't. I'm not. And they were going to move off set. They wanted to watch some film, and someone came up to us and said, "You guys should stay here because the person who asked you to come wants to come meet you." I said, "Who is it?" "Well, it's a surprise." So we wait there, and they said, "Okay, you can walk on over. He's waiting for you over there." I walk over, and who's walking on the path? But Jonathan Romy.
Oh yes.
And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, my 6-year-old is just like it's him. It's Jesus."
Yeah.
And he runs up to him and says, "Jesus," gives him a hug. I start crying, and then he says, "Hey, Tim." Jonathan says, "Hey, Tim." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "I'm the one who invited you here." It's like, "I follow your work, and I just wanted you to come." It is so beautiful.
So beautiful.
But another miracle that happened has to do with why we're sitting here, because you told me later, only one day did
I'm so glad you shared that story. I had never heard that story about Jonathan.
Yeah.
Jonathan's a class act, and how beautiful that he helped bring this together.
And he loved Sound of Freedom, loves it. He said that after he watched it, he said he couldn't stop thinking about it for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
So he's good guy.
Yeah.
But the other thing that happened that was probably even more miraculous was I ran into you.
Yeah.
And only to find out later that it was the only day that you even showed up.
Yeah, it was the only day I showed up to the Utah set, and I was only there for a few hours, and walked in the Jerusalem set, and then I heard Neal, turned around, saw your piercing blue eyes, and I Tim, it had been since 2016. Like I think we met in 2016 or 2017. It had been years and years, and then we talked, and you said, "I think the rights might be becoming available for Sound of Freedom," and one thing led to another.
And right then I knew that was the first time I could compare that to all the other times. Like, this is it. And I'm getting chills right now because I had that feeling while standing in this beautiful set that's a replica of Jerusalem. It was just the whole thing's insane after meeting Jesus, outside the set. Like, it was just incredible, a miraculous day. And then, of course, once the rights became done, the way God works, He's 11th hour God, right? By the time we got everyone together, which is like an act of God in itself, just to get everyone together.
Yes.
To get Caviezel to come and everybody in, and even some of the even Eduardo was like, I'm not going to fly in. I don't think he was doing other things. I'm like, bro, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Trust me.
This is
different.
Yeah.
But I remember you said, Tim, this. I think we had like 6 days or something.
Yeah.
What was the story?
Yeah. I think it was Thursday that we met. We decided to work together, and then we had to ship the trailer in front of his only son the next Monday. But then it ended up being Tuesday we shipped it, and it all worked out. And like you said, it was 11th hour. But that whole deal came together in what, 5 days, 5 or 6 days?
And I remember you and your brothers were like, if this gets done, it's the fastest deal we've ever seen or even heard of.
Yes.
These deals can take months.
Yes.
And just in less than a week.
Yes.
From beginning to end, it was signed and ready. It was just, and then look what's happened.
Yes.
I mean, everything had been, the way had been made already.
Yes.
It was just, do you guys have faith to get on the path?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, truly, we're so honored that that you and Eduardo and Alejandro have given us this responsibility to distribute this film. So excited to distribute it. And it's like there are so many stories that can be told about that entire process, but those are for another day. I'd love to hear, just for the benefit of the audience, getting to know you, the backstory behind. So in the film, there's a moment when Mira Sorvino, who plays Catherine, says, "You quit your job and you go rescue those kids," and that's in the trailer as well. Okay. Tell me about what happened there. What's the date of the real story? Like, did that real story happen right before the island raid? Did it happen earlier? Can you just give me some backstory around not only just the facts, but just also some of the feelings that might not be presented in the film? So
I'll start by saying one of the two times I went to the set over the 4 or 5 months or whatever it took, one was this time. Anytime Catherine showed up in the script, I made sure I was there.
Yep.
The other one was at the island.
Yep.
Which was extremely emotional. It was shot almost on location, just off from the actual island. But so I was down there because that part is so important. And even though, Mira's scenes are there's not a ton.
Yeah.
But that moment was a pivotal moment. I'm so glad you put it into the trailer. Because what had actually happened was, true to the film, I was working a case in Colombia that was looking to be one of the largest I'd ever seen. We thought we were going to rescue over 100. And we actually did, by the way. It was the actual number was 100 and, I want to say 130, 127.
So the 54 that's in the film.
It's only telling a third of the story.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there's a documentary that's going to come out.
That's right. That's right. We now have the rights to distribute it. It's called Triple Take.
Triple Take, and it's going to tell you everything that happened on the island.
Yeah.
You got a third of it.
Yeah.
But there's only so much time in a movie,
right?
Right. So, I was working this case, and I was told, "You're done. Where's the U.S. nexus? Where's the American pedophile? And at this point, I'm 12 years into my career. I'm like, I don't care about nationality. I don't care about borders. I don't care about countries. Like, when you see what's happening to kids, it's transnational completely. And I've never seen a case, by the way, that doesn't touch a ton of other countries anyway, right? So it's like, this is all the same. God's children is who we're looking for, not American or Colombian or Mexican. It doesn't matter. And so I was so kind of incensed by the cold-heartedness that is bureaucracy. And I'm not blaming my boss or whoever. I mean, I probably would have had to say the same thing.
It's the nature of bureaucracy.
It's the nature of bureaucracy. So I'm talking to Catherine, and I'm just like, I got to come home. I've had to come home many times. I've been going undercover in foreign countries at this point for years, and I've been told to come home so many times for the same reason, because the statutes that I have authority to enforce have to do with Americans, and I've always believed that if you'll see in Triple Take, I end up being right. I said, let me stay, let me do this with faith that we'll find the American. It might take arrests and seizures of digital media first, and we'll track back. And they said, no, that was too creative. As you'll see in Triple Take, it's exactly what happened. But I had to leave the government to do the case because they were not going to let me stay. Because
you'd be breaking some kind of regulation or something to do with the bureaucracy.
Right. No budget for this, no jurisdiction. And I'm looking at the Colombians who I'd promised, and they're like, well, you can't just leave. This won't happen if you just leave. So it was during that time that several things happened. One, I raised the money pretty quickly because of Glenn Beck. And Glenn Beck used to.
I didn't know that. Like, he helped you clear back when you were deciding whether, or was this after you made the decision to leave?
Glenn started to help me raise money as I was leaving.
Wow.
And he used to be, he was in the original script, by the way.
Yes.
But they just, again, just
you know,
the room.
Yeah, the amount of space.
And he didn't even know me that well. I was on his show because of an American history book I wrote. He didn't even know what I did.
Right.
Again, this is all explained in triple take.
Right.
So, anyway, but before I even asked him, I was talking to Catherine. I was just like, I wanted to come home. Because I said, I have to quit. And for her, it was so easy. It was simply, if you stay, do kids get rescued? And I said, probably. Yeah, I have to be honest. She's like, well, then why are we even, this is not even a decision. And I'm just like, well, Catherine, we have 6 children. I don't have a lot of savings. I have a really, really solid job. And what after? What happens after the rescue? She's like, God will take care of us. We'd had several spiritual experiences kind of leading up to this point, but I was a little more I was a lot more cowardice than she was. And ultimately, when we were about to leave and do this thing, now this is the beginning now. This is all happening at the end of 2013, like December 2013. And she, at one point, after all these miracles that happened, we knew we were going to do it. We knew we had to do it. We knew that Glenn, we had faith that Glenn would support it, but you don't know for sure, right? It's all a leap of faith. I got to leap out first. And I remember the second week of December, I said, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. This is crazy.
This is December of 2013?
2013.
Okay.
Second week of December of 2013. And after all these other experiences, we saw the hand of God and all these things. And she just walks up to me, and she's usually very sweet. But you've met her, so you can picture this too. She just goes like this. She grabs my collar, and she says, she looks in my eyes, and she said, I will not let you jeopardize my salvation by not doing this. And then she let it go, and I was like, whoa. Okay, we're going. Let's go. Like that. I don't know. I can't compete with that.
So one of the things that strikes me from this conversation, Tim, is this idea of a leap of faith. You described your leap of faith, Glenn's, Eduardo's, out in the middle of filming. You even touched on ours and taking on this film in a very short period of time. And there was a big leap of faith on choosing.
That was huge. Because everybody
July.
told you,
yes,
push it to the fall, push it to the fall.
Right. So there's this theme of bureaucracies and systems saying what you can't do.
Right.
And deadening that inner voice that says to you, you must do something.
Yeah.
And it's people like Catherine who are able to just cut through all that. And so I just feel like as we close this interview, I'd love for you to share with the audience who's watching Sound of Freedom what you think or feel they could do to help spread this message.
So I don't think there's ever been a film or any kind of story, medium, whatever, that explains what is happening to the children of the world like this. Because it's not a documentary or some film that's hard to watch or like, not that it's doesn't explain what happens, but these guys are such spiritual, divinely appointed artists that I can't even explain how they do it. Because you don't see anything, but they make sure you know what it is.
Yes.
But they do it in a way that's digestible and keeps you on this exciting thriller mission.
Yep.
So you get to stay engaged, kind of white-knuckled, what's going to happen, while learning what it is, and then finding what the resolution is.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the film, everyone says, what can I do? Well, that's individual. People know different things. But what everybody can do is be a storyteller or participate in the storytelling process. And that's the beauty of this film, is that everybody can, at the end of the film, have the opportunity to pay it forward. Because they'll sit there and say, everyone needs to see this. Great, help them. How many tickets will you buy? And they will do it because it's the immediate thing. Because I can't put them on a mission right now. I can't assign them to go do some event or some political policy, debate, whatever. I can't give them an assignment. I've never been able to at the end of presentations. But here's an assignment. If everybody watches this, they will leave getting others to watch it, and then it'll take a few days for them to realize what they can do specifically. So this is the catalyst. This is the great movement.
And it will come, just like it came for you, something will come specifically. I'm convinced of that.
Yes.
There'll be an individualized call to action.
Yes.
And if people will listen to it and act on it, I believe that 50 years down the road, that our grandchildren can look back and with the same gratitude that we look back at Harriet Beecher Stowe and Uncle Tom's Cabin and how they helped eliminate slavery. I believe that can happen as well. You've always shared with me that story. We're out of time and we have to close. Tim, I hope we get to talk more. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here to sharing this, to sharing what's happened. This is a real hero. This is not Marvel or anything. This is a real hero, and he inspires in us, and the filmmakers inspire in us, and you will inspire in others by sharing this story. Exactly what needs to happen. And so go to angel.com/freedom, and we'd love to have you join this army of love to help these children. 2 million for 2 million in the seats, in theaters, representing the 2 million children that are estimated to be trafficked this year.
Thank you so much, Neal and Tim, for that wonderful interview. We are so grateful for everybody being here. Again, you have the opportunity. I'm Jordan Harmon, president of Angel Studios. You have the opportunity to be a part of a movement that we believe can be the beginning of the end of child trafficking and child sex trafficking. So